right on it.
Call the meeting to order with a prayer. Almighty God, we ask for your guidance and direction as we come together to meet. Grant us the strength to manage the challenges ahead and the wisdom to identify these as opportunities as we strive to serve the citizens of Crescent Springs. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Invisible. Here's Matt. Shut up.
You made it.
Roll call.
Matt Zed,
Here.
Tom Bergamini,
Here.
Carter Dickerson,
Here.
Christy Arlinghouse,
Here.
Mike Darty,
Here.
Bob Mueller.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Shirley, you want to come up here?
She looks
In
she
trouble?
probably.
I'll stand on 1 foot now.
I can do that.
I'm sure you can, probably better than me. A proclamation presented by Lou Hartfield, Mayor, City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky. All those now present shall hear, whereas Ms. Shirley Hartfield began working with the City of Crescent Springs on July 1st, 2004. Whereas she has tended to the flowers and assorted plants at the city memorials, the city building, the city signs, and various planters throughout the city. Whereas Ms. Hartfield has assisted the City Events and Recreation Committee with many city events, such as the Easter egg hunt, Halloween in the park, Music Fest, and Christmas in the park. Whereas she has assisted the front office staff whenever necessary, providing critical help and service for residents. Whereas Ms. Shirley Hartfield has always been a treasure to those around her, but will now have time to pursue her hobbies and enjoy her family. Therefore, I, Lou Hartfield, Mayor of the City of Crescent Springs, excuse me, on behalf of the City Council and citizens of Crescent Springs, wish to recognize and honor Shirley Hartfield, hereby given under my hand this 12th day of November 2018, Lou Hartfield, Mayor.
Hello. Thank you.
You changed, Lou.
Approval of the minutes for October 8th, 2018 council meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the council meeting of October 8th, 2018.
Chrissy's made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Matt, second. Roll call.
Tom Bergamini,
Yes.
Carter Dickerson,
Yes.
Christy Arlinghouse,
Yes.
Mike Darty,
Yes.
Bob Mueller,
Yes.
Matt Zed.
Yes.
Okay, next item is the fire authority report. Mike?
Nothing's changed since the caucus report. I'm sure now the elections are over. The people are getting together and starting to, probably after the first year, work on the, a committee for a new building proposal that was mentioned at the caucus. I have no other information on that, other than it probably needs to happen, but I know nothing else. And other than that, there's nothing else to report.
All right,
The
thank,
building's in that bad a shape that
thank you.
The building was built back in the 70s when everybody was a volunteer and nobody slept there.
okay.
Now they have, people sleeping there overnight, and it's just not a good situation.
Could they add on or just completely?
I'm sure that's
Being
all
considered?
options are
Okay.
being considered.
Okay. Thanks.
But there's no committee formed at this time, so.
Thanks, Mike. Finance, Matt.
From a finance report, each of you should have in front of you kind of an update for the 4 months of the period ending October 31st. At the time of printing, I did not have the balance sheet information, so that's why that's missing. I didn't want to give you inaccurate data. So as soon as we have that, I'll update this. But as usual, this kind of gives a breakdown of the financial condition through 4 months. You can kind of see the total revenues. This year to date, we're about $1.1 million. Last year, we were about $1.3 million. I'll talk about what the two big differences are in a moment. On the expense side, you can see administration is within like $700, so they're right on pace where they historically have been. Public Works is the big spender. A number of big items have come through on the expense side. Payroll is up, and equipment purchases is really a big one. And then the special expense for the grant for the restroom at the park. So I would say those three, higher payroll, some equipment purchases, and the restroom at the park are really kind of the big items that are driving that increase in Public Works. Safety Services, as we've talked about, continues to feel the benefit of the savings from the new police contract. And then we do have a debt service payment. This is the final one for the truck, so this will end that loan. We'll have a conversation later about another one. All told, the bottom line there, you can see we're at about $196,000 year to date versus $366. So really the $200,000 difference really is attributed back up to the revenue side. You kind of see my notes out to the far right. We are down year over year in the insurance premium tax, about $82,000. And we talk about every year, very difficult to forecast the insurance premium tax. It's based on when policies are underwritten for the residents in our community. Last year we had a significant increase. So I would say this year is a little bit more normal, but when comparing it to last year, it does show down quite a bit. Property tax receipts are actually up a little bit. The other place we're seeing the down is our payroll gross receipts. So we're down about $114,000 off of those 2 years. So if you add the IPT and the payroll gross receipts, frankly, that's really the difference that kind of drops to that bottom line. The second page is really the same data, just more in a graphical representation, so you can see the allocation of revenue. Again, 73% of our revenues really come in from what we call taxes, 23% from license and permits. Those are the majority of our revenue side. And then you can kind of see the split of where expenses are allocated for safety services, public funds, or I'm sorry, Public Works, and then our administration side. And that kind of just gives you the graphs of those numbers. Any other questions on those? Okay, when I get the balance sheet, I will update that and send it out there by email.
Thanks, Matt.
Yes, sir.
Brian.
Everybody should have the monthly report in front of them. I'm not going to go through it unless there's any questions. I will tell you there's a page missing, and that's due to a change in the CAD system. They're still rebuilding it, so that will be back next month. It just wasn't ready for now. So if there's any questions or anything you want to ask about the monthly report.
Aside from the missing page, all the other data that was not recovered, but it's operational again, it's working the way you all want it to, or is there still some bugs?
It's slowly coming back.
Okay.
There's some sections that they actually had to completely rebuild, which is what's taking so long. There's some sections that the data is not being pulled correctly, so we're still working on that end of it.
Okay, great.
The same system as across the river.
Same system 2.0, maybe some changes.
Across the river had a similar network.
Well, actually, this was a server failure. There's a server crash, so there's about 3 weeks worth of data that they actually got corrupted, and they have to mine through it. Like it's a tedious mining to pull all that data back in. The good news is that they've been successful in most of it. But then there's sections of the new CAD system, or I'm sorry, the new server. They actually had to completely rebuild the daily reports. That has to be rebuilt completely. So it's a tedious process. Plus, out at the dispatch center, they've undergone a head of the agency change, and they're in the middle of upgrading their phone system. So it's all going to get done sometime by the end of the year. That's my understanding. So as more comes online, we'll be able to give you more out, or we'll get more out of it. I know one of the things was the report. That's probably going to be the first of the year before I can get that report. This page here, it's, we have to marry up Excel with the new system, and there's some changes to do it, so I just we had a training on how to do it, to pull the data out through Excel, so we're working on making sure. It's not reading my data correctly though, so we've got some issues with that. But by next month, I anticipate the full report to be back. Most everything is in here, out of KY Ops is in here. Those are good numbers. It's the top 4 pages that are the numbers that are, I'm not sure, are correct. So I will say, these are the numbers with a caveat, I'm not sure they're correct. But they're relatively.
Directionally, yeah.
Yeah.
So the server crashed. Do you have any off-site data storage?
No, ma'am, I don't know if they did or not. All I know is the server crashed. There's actually part of their server, they had to rebuild the reports. Several reports had to be manually rebuilt.
Huh.
And then you have a new CAD system, and they're trying to get the bugs worked out of the new CAD system. And it's kind of a big mess.
And it was county's server.
Yes.
Yeah.
And was it just for the police side of it, or did the administration side of Kenton County
No,
get
it was
affected too?
the police server is a separate server.
Okay, I was just curious if they, yeah.
And it had all the CAD information and all that data that was bringing in. It was still there, but 3 weeks of data were corrupted. So you imagine 3 weeks of every call for every department throughout Kenton County. And that's what we're digging through. So it's lots of data to get through and to pull that out. So that's what our issue was. But I am told by next month we should be pretty much where we were at. That's what I'm told. So we'll go with that. But I didn't see anything that stood out, out of the ordinary. It looked like a pretty ordinary month. I should say ordinary for nothing pops out that's really big or anything like that. So with that, that's good news. That means things aren't changing a whole lot, which is good news. We do have the Christmas season coming up, so we'll start moving our patrol to the stores and all that stuff for shoplifters and things like that. So if there's any questions on this, I will fill you in on a couple other things. There's no questions on this. The radio purchase, we will be signing the radio contract this month. Motorola is what we're going to go with. Basically the same radio we got, but it's in the 800 megahertz form. Same radio fire department's going with. We're looking at February to get them. They're going to start testing them by March. April is the anticipated date that they're going to go live with everything. They got to test everything with the trees, with the leaves on it. That affects it evidently. So that will be done. I will send that over the Crescent Springs portion of it. I'm anticipating it's around 27, which is close to what we did on the contract. So that should be good to go. We're hiring our 14th officer. She starts next week. She'll go to the academy. That'll give us we'll be up and running. The 2 that came out of the academy should be cut loose by the 1st of December. So we will be pretty much up to speed and good to go with that. We are going to do a canned food drive starting Wednesday till Wednesday of next week. Crescent Springs will be the drop-off point. We're encouraging everybody within the sound of my voice to bring canned food items so we can send them down to the needy. It's kind of a week-long stuff the cruiser, but we'll stuff your hallway kind of thing. We'll come up and collect it every day, put it in an office, and then at the end, we'll take it down to the different areas that are needy for food.
Have you identified those areas yet?
United Industries is one of them. There's several other areas we go to, and we'll just kind of divide it up amongst a couple of them and take care of it that way. And then we'll have a Shop with a Cop 12th of December.
What's that?
Basically, we identify, River Ridge will identify children that are in need. Then Crescent Springs Fire and Villa Hills Police will team up, take kids out, go shopping for Christmas. Good time. Then we take them back to the fire department, have a little dinner and wrap their presents for them. And so it's a nice little day.
Does the school help you pick those children?
Yes. We go through their counselors.
That's
And we
great.
say, give us the most needy, and they give us, it's usually a fun day. We take them out,
That sounds
go
great.
shopping all day. I think the police officers have more fun than they do. Other than that, I have nothing else unless anyone has some questions for me.
Okay. Thanks, Brian.
Outstanding, thank you.
Public Works, Dewey.
We changed out all the banners throughout the city. We've been working on the trucks, getting them ready for the winter. We're starting to put up Christmas lights at the parks with Christmas tree lighting on December 1st. I have a small dump truck being repaired. We had an engine problem with it and a computer problem. I'm hoping to have it back in the next day or two. The restrooms up at the park, we have it under roof. They have the doors on, the windows in, electric in. We don't know whether we'll get the water and sanitation hooked up due to the weather, because the weather put us behind at the beginning. So if we do have some warm weather, we'll still try to get that in. If not, we may have to do that next year. We received a new Bobcat and attachment, and we also sold the old Bobcat and attachment. And we'll be closing the park and the bathrooms on November the 18th, and then we'll have it back open for the Christmas event, and we'll close it back down for the winter. That's all I have.
Dewey,
Thanks, Dewey.
have you extended are we gonna go ahead and extend the electric service through the park?
No, we already
Okay.
did.
Okay, so that we've already done all we're
We
gonna
bought
do?
cables, we have to
Yeah.
buy, we're gonna buy 10 sets of cables, 10 spider boxes, and 15 platforms that come over, that
Okay.
cover it.
That's a cheaper way.
We had, after we budgeted money for the electric, we had about $5,000 left there. And then we, after we sold the property, the surplus right away up on Ritchie Street, Terry, that money and money from the sale of the Bobcat, which was $6,000, was enough to pay for the Bobcat, the new Bobcat. There's about $4,000 left. That $4,000 and the $5,000 that we had left in the electric for the electric in the park is enough to purchase those cables and stuff instead of us renting them. If we rent them, it's about $3,000 a year.
Yeah, I recall, I recall that now. So we'll just store those for as needed?
We'll
use?
have those and we'll use them as needed. We'll use them for music and Music Fest, Christmas in the Park, or any other event we have.
Okay. Great, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Dewey. Rip?
I just got a few things. One of the things I wanted to touch on is the retirement of Shirley Oakfield. It's with mixed feelings. I think the Public Works Department and myself are having seeing her retire. Shirley's worked with us for 14 years, maybe 15 years. Known her probably 40 years. She's one of the hardest working individuals we've ever had in this city. And I'm not just saying that because she's sitting in the audience, I'm saying that because I mean that. I think Dewey would agree with that. She goes about her business, she doesn't have to be told what to do. She takes care of all the flower beds, everything in the park and everything in the city. And she comes in every day when she needs to, and she leaves at 12. You don't have to worry about her. For her retiring, to get the same amount of work done, it'll probably take two people. I'm serious when I say that. She's going to be hard to fill her shoes. She is an excellent employee and does an excellent job, and the city should be proud that they had her doing the park and the flowers. With that being said, I want to add that I received a call from Billy Andrews, who's the property manager for Ramco Gershwinson, who owns Buttermilk Town Center, and to make you aware, the property is for sale. They're trying to sell the town center. They have a couple of buyers. It seems to be the history with that town center and a lot of other ones, and I've talked to people, and shopping centers like that sell on a regular basis. An individual will go in and they'll buy it up at the right price, then they'll keep it a few years, then they'll resell it when the market's right, and they make money and they move on. And that seems to be the history with that. When they do sell, they will have to come and sit down with the city. There's a lot of things that goes into the sale of that property with us floating the bonds for it like we did in the beginning, them taking them over, the pilot payment, just a lot of different things. So it's just not cut and dried. They sell it and they go on. We will be meeting with the new buyers when they select one, and with Ramco Gershwinson. As we talked a few minutes ago, as Matt touched in his financial report, we did order the new dump truck, the 2019 dump truck, which it should be here. I believe they told us November, December, didn't they, Dewey?
I think more towards December, probably.
And I believe we have to either finance or pay approximately $144,000 for that dump truck. I did get some numbers together and get them to Matt, which Matt can touch on those numbers if he'd like to, from BBT Bank, and financing it for a 3 or a 5 year period. I believe he reviewed the numbers, or the bank numbers that they had sent us, and felt they were pretty reasonable. So I'll let him touch on that in a minute. And the other thing I wanted to touch on was our radios. I believe the police chief brought up about the new 800 megahertz radios that are being purchased. There will be 3 for the city of Crescent Springs. And what they are, one is for the city administrator in case of an emergency, tornado, large whatever problem, disaster of some type. The city administrator will have one, the public works director will have one, and the mayor will have one. And that is to put communications within our police department, FEMA, and Homeland Security with Kenton County. So what that does is just make us to be able to talk when all other communications are out. And so those radios have been ordered by the fire department. And I told them to go ahead and order the radios and then invoice us when they come in, and we would pay for those. Approximately, I believe, what, 5,000 a radio?
Your radio, I don't know which radio they ordered. Their radios are about 5,000. Our radios are around 2,800, 3,000. The radios, I'm not sure what they purchased for you, but they could be between 1,500, 2,000.
Right, the portable Motorola's, I believe.
Yeah.
Correct. Other than that, that's all I have to report.
Thank you, Rip. Okay, mayor's report. I was at the mayor's group meeting last month, and the National League of Cities has a service line warranty program that a lot of the cities in the area participate in. Doesn't cost the cities anything. What they do is if the city approves it, they notify the residents, send them the literature, what it's all about, the money that they can save, or the money that it could cost them if they do have a disaster. And I passed out the brochure for that. If you read over that, the caucus meeting, Mike Chambers from that program will be at the caucus meeting to go into more detail and explain how the program works. Again, there's no cost to the city, but I think it's something that the residents should at least have the opportunity to be informed of and look at and decide whether they want it or not. It's up to each individual homeowner. So that's all I have on that.
Is this different than what the utility company offers as far
It's
as
different.
a warranty?
It's different.
What's it cover? You know what the...
It covers water lines,
Water
sewer
lines,
lines,
okay.
and it covers the areas where normally the homeowner would have to pay.
Like if the line's on the other side of the street, they have to tear up the public street, and that becomes pretty expensive.
And I think there's like 12 other cities that offer this to their residents. If I may go back to my report real quick,
Can I ask a question about this? Well,
Yeah.
before we leave it. It says the coverage is up to $8,500 per repair incident.
Well,
Is
could
that
be-
like a
Could be more than that.
sufficient?
That's a sufficient amount, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
It could be more than that, but
Depending.
most of them, it depends which side of the street the main's on or the water
Okay.
meter's on.
Okay.
But it's a pretty good program. I know a couple people that have benefited from
I
it.
know there was a company that's going around Huckster and this a couple
Yeah,
years
there-
ago, and we heard
there were
that.
quite a few of them
Yeah.
in the area, but this is sanctioned by the National League of Cities, and there's quite a few local cities that are already involved in the program.
So going back a page earlier, page 2, it has a bullet point of ongoing revenue stream for the municipality.
Yeah, there is a small, I'm not sure
You get
exactly.
a percentage of the
You
premium
get
paid by
like
the.
50 cents
Yeah.
on the dollar, or 50 cents on for each particular program that they do.
I don't think it's a large amount. but-
Some of the cities donate it back to whatever, an organization or whatever the case may be, because it's not a major money stream coming in.
I'm sure it's not 50 cents on the dollar.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's
No,
how-
$50
that's how major stream.
$50, 50
Yeah.
cents on a contract, something like that, not on
Yeah.
a dollar. If I may go back to my report a minute, as you know, we did have an agreement with Crescent Springs Church of God, Reverend Brantley, in reference to the parking lot down there. It is renewable because we made that agreement renewable year to year. We talked to him today, he's got to run the agreement past the church again. And then we've asked him if we could make it a 5-year agreement. It just renews automatically every year instead of going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And what it is for the use of the church parking lot. One of the things that he was concerned with is the same thing that he was concerned with last year, that, you know, if they did sell the church, then they would have to be able to break this agreement. And we realized that last year when we talked to them, and I don't believe it would be a problem this year, you know, if they would sell it and tear it down and build a new office building or something. The other thing is,
What do we pay him a year?
it's $1.
$1.
$1. Pretty good deal.
So
So you can get it for 75 cents.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
the other issue I wanted to bring up is the LED lights on Buttermilk and on Anderson Road. I did give those for Matt to review. I don't know if he's had time to review them or not, but if, hopefully he can review them and report back at the caucus meeting. That's all I have.
Okay, next item, old business. None. New business. Agreement with BB&T Bank for loan on new truck.
Municipal Order 2018-9. The municipal order of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, authorizing the mayor, I'll change that, I'm giving you a promotion here.
Yeah, thank you.
To enter into a loan agreement with BB&T Bank for the purchase of a dump truck for a term of 3 years in amount not to exceed $142,000. Whereas the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky is in need of replacement of equipment that it uses to serve the needs of the residents of the City of Crescent Springs, and whereas the need to replace a dump truck has been identified and negotiations have been ongoing for the purchase, acquisition, and financing of a dump truck, and whereas BB&T has made a proposal to finance the purchase of a dump truck by lending to the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, the sum of $142,000, which is to be repaid in 3 annual installments beginning in October of 2019 and ending in October of 2021. And whereas said loan shall bear interest at the rate of 3.7%, and whereas it is in the interest of the city to acquire the dump truck to serve its residents, now therefore be it ordained by the mayor and city council of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, that the mayor is hereby authorized to enter into and execute any loan documents with BB&T Bank to borrow the sum of $142,000 at the rate of 3.7% for a 3-year annual payment term, with the first payment beginning in October of 2019 and ending in October of 2021. The city is hereby authorized to accept possession of the dump truck in the year 2018. The mayor is authorized to execute any and all documentation to acquire the aforesaid dump truck.
Pat, you want
No, yeah, just a quick comment. So, as denoted, the proposal was provided. I did reference that rate with a number of other folks who do public finance. They said that's a very good rate. Also add to it, the documentation that was given to us by BB&T had no closing costs, no loan costs. So it was pretty much just the rate. So I think they gave us an option of a 3-year deal or a 5-year deal. Given the interest rate environment, we just did the 3-year because they're both pretty good rates. So that was my recommendation to council and to George.
Okay. Any questions? Need a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve.
Carter has made the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Christie second.
Bob Mueller,
Yes.
Mike Darty,
Yes.
Christie Arlinghouse.
Yes.
Carter Dickerson,
Yes.
Tom Burgundy, Matt Zach.
Yes.
Unanimous, he passes.
So, do you want us to, George, is it timely to read these on the LED lighting still, given what you said?
on the LED lighting?
What's interesting about both of them, I read them online, is they don't really speak to term.
It is a little vague on purpose.
Right, yes, and so that's why I was actually thinking that's what you were doing, is let's just make it vague enough that we get to the figuring out the financing,
Exactly.
make it either, so
We had a
certainly can do whatever you guys
suggestion.
want, but I was, to answer the question, there's no term listed in there.
There was no term listed, and they would do the
Or dollar
terms. So they asked me, and I said, well, I don't know if we would do it by term, or if we would do it in one installment, like Tom had suggested, under the Duke franchise fees. We do have the money, I believe, available, whether we want to utilize it for that or do this on a term. The last one we did, I believe, was a 10-year term, wasn't it?
Is it 10 or 7? I remember analyzing both, but it was a longer term, yes.
It's a longer term, and that was for approximately $43,000 for the older sections of town.
Did they give
This,
us any numbers as to what the cost was gonna be?
on this one, it was about $110,000.
And that was for-
110 to 120.
and that was for both of them, right? Not just, that was for both.
That's for Buttermilk and Anderson.
What are we
correct.
generating in franchise fees?
Roughly 130
Okay.
ballpark, using round
Could
numbers.
do it one term.
Could do a one term. Again, it could do it over a couple of years, because again, if the intention is to keep the utilities franchise fee, maybe you time the payments that come in over them. If it's, the intention is we're gonna get rid of that, then I would do the one time. I think you could do either way.
The franchise fee is kind of a unique situation that we're in, that we have that in place, that we could do this. I had a gentleman call me in reference to the signpost and the street signs in the city of Villa Hills, and wanted to know, he lives on the border of Crescent Springs and Villa Hills, and wanted to know why we couldn't do that for there. And I said, well, that's pretty expensive poles and it's an expensive project. I says, right now, we're looking at LED lights on Buttermilk Road. That could be a project we could look at in a year or two. These kind of projects is, we have 4 years remaining on the Duke franchise fee, I believe. I believe
Yes.
this is the second year of it, somewhere right around there. I mean, so you could do a project for the next 4 years, approximately $100,000, and then end the franchise fee, or you could keep it up. So,
If I'm reading
something to
these
look
two-
at.
If I'm reading these two documents right, and George, correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like if it's a lump sum payment for both projects, it's about $132,000.
Is that, well, I don't have the papers in front of me, that's correct, that's fine, I believe it, take your word. But anywhere, I was told anywhere from 110 to 122.
I think less because it's a lump sum.
So,
Okay.
Well, that begs the question, do we have sufficient information to pass a municipal order?
I don't believe so.
Okay. well,
I
let's-
believe that I need to get them to give us an actual document. They were waiting, I believe, can you answer that situation? Have you got anything to add to that? Well, you're a sanitation
Yeah.
department.
Yeah, she did not.
Excuse me.
She can give you an estimate, but.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, I talked to another lady today from Duke too, and I'm thinking, wait a minute. I'll ask them for an actual document. The state was kind of going back and forth with them on some issues, and I'll tell them before we can make a decision, we gotta have more.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I would hold off reading these two, and then we can add the actual verbiage of term and cost in there. That would make the municipal order a little bit meatier, if that's a
Right.
word that I can
And
use.
the reason for the vagueness is they're giving 7 different options.
Right.
I actually thought when I asked him to do that, that the number was in there. I guess it wasn't.
But there's no push that would
No.
necessitate. Yeah, let's wait until we have all our
Which is
information.
6 more than they would have given any of us. And
Yeah.
Exactly.
It was actually a test for the city attorney.
When would they start the work in replacement, in spring?
Spring or early summer. And see, that's the other, the problem is with this, when you work with the state highway department, normally if Duke would contact us, we would sign off on a right-of-way for them to do work in right-of-way. Well, the state of Kentucky doesn't do that, you have to do it by permit. And that's where Duke is at, is trying to find out what you want. One day they want one thing, another day they want something else. So I'll get the information and get it back to us.
I think we've already pulled the 2018-12, so,
Well,
because we need more
the lease-
clarification on
lease
the
on the
lease.
church got it.
The only other comment I have, maybe I should have said this under old business, that property, as George had mentioned, finally on Terry and Ritchie, the right-of-way, finally closed. Mr. Wallace and I exchanged. I received a check. He got an encroachment agreement, which we have the right to encroach if we need to, essentially. And so, God bless him. I hope that car wash makes money. Because at some point, we probably need to encroach.
Yeah. Okay. The finance meeting is 11:21.
Do we need to vote on did we vote on the lease
No.
For the church?
for the church?
No, we're gonna wait on that, because Mike Brantley has to get it approved
Oh,
through the
that's right.
church.
That's right. So,
11:22, 11:23, the administrative office, the city will be closed. 11:26 is the next caucus meeting. Ms. Sanitation, do you have anything you want to?
I don't have anything to
Well,
add
we'll have to
or
compliment
I
that
can
one.
entertain any questions if anybody has any for me, but
Anybody have any questions for her?
For SD1?
For the sewers.
Yeah,
Sewer
for the
lady.
sewer lady.
Not right now.
Okay.
Very
I
helpful
had-
lady at that.
I had one thing, I found out today that Home Depot has a foundation that they will give grants to cities that, to be used to make improvements to residents' homes that are veterans. And they give up between $5,000 and $10,000.
Wow.
I don't know if through the Veterans Memorial, if we have a disabled veteran in the city
Yeah, I don't
that's
know.
home would need improvement.
We
It's
can,
just something we can,
we could look into that. They offered that program ever since they've been here.
okay,
And they come into this city and they'll take somebody that is disabled or not able to work on their house, and they'll bring a
Right.
crew in and do that. And we've asked that several times and it has never happened. They do come in and they do the children's workshop, they'll do that. They've made some contributions toward the 911 and also the city's golf outings. But when we actually asked, to come in and go with us to some different houses, we didn't get too much of a
well,
response.
this is like all online, that you complete a form online, it doesn't even go through your local.
Yeah, you had to do it through
store.
Atlanta.
And so it's just something to think about.
Okay. Okay, ma'am, do you have anything that you want to address council on?
No, thank you.
Just observing?
Yes, AP government class.
Okay.
Welcome.
I'm glad they teach civics still.
They didn't tell you you're gonna have a quiz tomorrow.
We got it all.
It would be nice if they teach civility in civics.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, we have a coin toss tomorrow.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting. Is this a first
You
for the
gonna be the
city?
representative?
I will not be able to be there.
Okay.
Be a first.
It's-
I
Yeah,
believe
well,
Attic's
no,
gonna be
I think-
practicing.
Are
I
you-
think
are
that
you gonna
happened
be the
in the
point
90s when I was
Just
on
gave her
council
some-
one time.
Her
But not
staff.
with write-ins.
Okay,
Not write-in, no, it was a flip of the coin for a tie vote.
Interesting.
That happened out in Walton, didn't it, a couple of years ago?
Yes.
Yes.
And the man didn't know themselves. They get there.
Well, I thought his wife didn't vote for it. Something- his wife didn't vote for it.
His wife did not.
His wife didn't get their vote.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Okay.
Mayor, make a motion, we adjourn.
All right, Mike's made a motion,
I'll second.
Christie second, all in favor?
Oh.
Meeting's adjourned.
Mike, I believe